Core Confidence Life.
Welcome to the program. I am your host, Dennis R. Sumlin, broadcasting straight out of New York City. And on this Core Confidence Life podcast, boy, we've got a story for you. We are going to have a guest, Demetrios Angelis, and he is an author. All right. And we've had many authors here before, but let me tell you, Demetrios Angelis is on here to talk about his new book, The Ottawa Way. Ottawa is the capital of Canada. And it's because Demetrios Angelis was falsely accused and imprisoned for murder. Spent 6 years in prison until he was able to get the conviction overturned. He was falsely accused of murder of his wife, who was having an extra-marital affair. And so he's on the program now to talk about this. We have a very deep, long conversation about his marriage, extramarital affairs. We have a conversation about domestic violence against men, which needs definitely more discussion. We've got details on how he got convicted, what he did to get that conviction overturned, what happened to his 2 children that he lost in the process. So it's heavy duty stuff. There's also going to be a film made about this, and he's been on several other podcasts and newspapers about this. And so he lands on the program here to tell you about his ordeal. All right. And if you want to be a guest on the program as well, you can go to coreconfidencelife.com/guest to be there. Like us on social media, on YouTube, because you never know when we're going to have videos about things. Like us also on Twitter and Facebook. So there you go. Core Confidence Life also has courses you can take. So if you go to coreconfidencelife.com and look under the heading featured courses, you will find the dates for our latest public speaking course, of course, online. And you will find the latest in our free courses other than that. All right, so now we're going to turn to Demetrios Angelis to talk about his ordeal being falsely accused of a capital crime and then luckily getting it overturned and everything that was in between that. You are listening to the Core Confidence Life podcast, a personal development program that addresses issues around relationships, sex, society, and spirituality from a no-holds-bars holistic perspective. With a non-traditional approach to current events, manhood, and culture, our expert guests, deep discussion, and actionable steps will help you develop healthy relationships, inner peace, and a stronger sense of self and direction. Listener discretion is advised. What's going on, Demetrios?
Hey, how are you, Dennis?
I am doing well today. So there's a lot to get into. Don't even know where to start, but I guess the proper way is to start from the beginning. So you are on the program to talk about your story of being wrongfully convicted of murder. And we're going to talk about domestic violence as well, because that's what led up to it. But first, give everyone an idea generally of who you are, where you come from, a little bit of a background information for you, guy.
So I was born in Montreal, Canada, but my family and I relocated to Queens, New York, to escape sort of the political instability that was going on there in 1976, 1977. If you were an immigrant or a child of an immigrant, you were pretty much a second-class citizen. And so we had no future there, so we left. We left to go to New York, and we moved into the neighborhood where, the current governor, Andrew Cuomo, his family was. In fact, I grew up with the Cuomos. I went to school with Andrew Cuomo's younger brother, Chris, who's now the host of CNN. And actually met Mario Cuomo back in the day, too, I remember. Both sides of my family, they've got, they got the European part where Greek, French, Spanish, and some Russian Jewish in there. But there were also Middle East, Turkey and Pakistan, Persia, a bit of Pakistan. But the defining part of their culture that sort of affected me later on is their African ancestry. My father's side has significant portions of, family or DNA from South Africa, and with my mother, it's Cameroon. And so when people look at me, they can see all this blending of cultures, and the Arabic and African portion really comes through when you see me. I mean, I was bullied at school, and the fact that also my neighborhood, and the fact that I had a learning disability didn't help either, but still, I just didn't let that stop me. I persevered. I got my education, went to LaSalle Academy in Manhattan, and I was ready to go to university and college in America, in the United States, in New York. My mother found it too expensive. So she goes, you know what? Hey, it's more affordable in Montreal. Let's go back to where you were born. We'll get an affordable college, university education. And I did. I mean, I got 2 college diplomas in the physical sciences and nursing. I got an undergraduate degree in biology and epidemiology with minors in psychology and sociology. I had 2 master's degrees in health administration and public administration with minors in political science and business. And so I am educated, and I've never been in trouble with the law. I've always worked part-time jobs, like in the Veterans Hospital. But after I graduated, I immediately got a job in Canada, in the capital, Ottawa. So, and that's where I started working for the public health department, giving policy advice to, to senior government officials. And I also have a couple of publications under my belt. I did one on emergency response preparedness, and it came out at the perfect time. It came out 3 months after 9/11. And it was, and was consulted. People in America and Africa and other countries, they consulted it because it was, a timely piece. And so now I'm about to release my 3rd book, and which is more of a personal story, like you said, and it's about my, wrongful conviction and being sentenced to life in prison for a murder I never committed. And of course, this all goes to, related to murdering my wife, who I was divorcing at the time, who always happened to be the mother of our 2 young children. And it goes through the struggle of not only the experience, where I came from, but where I ended up being in life. So here I am, and I mentioned this earlier to you before we started the show. Here I am, I'm groomed to be like a Superman or a big Boy Scout. And in the end, I ended up being more, the whole experience left me more, if you want, mature and realistic, that the world isn't black and white, and you have to be assertive and grow up. And so I moved from being Superman to now being more like a Batman type of figure. Right?
Yeah. So you have a book coming out, and that's talking about this experience with you and domestic violence and your wife and the murder conviction. So, well, how did all this begin? So where did you meet your wife? Who is this woman? Where'd you meet her, and how'd you end up with her?
So I met her in the summer of 1990, where I was taking summer classes at the college over in Montreal, Dawson College, and I was taking 2 classes at the time, but they were at opposite ends of the campus. So here I am rushing on the first day of summer class in my humanities course, and I'm rushing to make it on time to my organic chemistry class, which was on the other side of the campus. And by the time I got there, she didn't have anyone, and she was the last person standing after everybody else had a lab partner, and I didn't. So I was had no choice but to take her on as my lab partner. And that's how we got to meet, So we would meet in lab class, I didn't really mingle with her or talk with her during the actual class, in the classroom. But in lab, I had no choice but to sort of interact with her. I got to know her, and she started befriending me. She was very assertive and trying to, show that she was worthy of my friendship and that she was a nice person. And then, at the time, I wasn't really interested in her romantically. I was trying to, there was this other girl in my humanities class that I was more interested in, gorgeous girl, but higher social economic class. Her father was campaigning for mayor, and he didn't win the election, but still, I was interested in her, but she wasn't interested in me, so she ended up dating another guy. So, and I ended up being, even though I was trying to, date, I ended up being single anyway. And I think she realized that. My lab partner, she realized that, and she was born in Vietnam, with Vietnamese father and a Chinese mother. But that didn't bother me because I knew the culture very well. I had a lot of friends. I knew what they were about, and but I never really got into a personal relationship with them, not the way she wanted. And so, she sort of played. She thought I was a nice guy. She played on my empathy, my sympathy, my niceness, and my pittiness, and say, look, my birthday's coming up. My birthday's coming up, and I'm alone. It would be nice if you took me out, to celebrate my birthday. So I pitied her and I said, okay, fine, we'll go out for your birthday. That's fine. And over time, she just, sort of bit by bit, got into my life. She wanted to meet my parents. She wanted, and she wanted me to meet her father and her parents and her brothers. And so next thing you know, she's pushing the relationship further and further along. And when next thing we know, we started being a couple, and that happened, let's say, for about 2 years until she proposed to me after getting my parents' approval,
So wait, I said, so you didn't want to be with her, but she saw that you were, nice guy, kind of laid back, and then she kind of moved in on those kinds of more gentler traits.
Yeah.
And, guess you went along with some of it, and then she got in your good graces with your family.
Yeah.
And, so she built this whole system to kind of use what you had going on with you and your personality and your family to trap you in a way, just get what she wanted.
Yeah, to lure me, yeah.
To lure me. She wanted you, and she was going to use what she could to get with you.
And at the time, I didn't know really where it was coming from, what was going. It was only after that a psychiatrist that I met in jail told me what was going on. And in retrospect, it all started making sense. But yeah, so at the time, I didn't know what was going on. And in retrospect, after I was informed and educated, I knew what it was. And I'll talk about that a bit later, about the type of person she was in terms of psychiatry and psychology, and how those kinds of people work into your lives, and it can be ugly. And I've done a lot of research. I've spoken to people about it. I'm not alone. And I don't think a lot of people out there that listening are alone either. And it's important that they know what to look for. But anyway, Getting back to my story,
Mm-hmm.
So I got married to her. We got married in September 1992 after 2 years of dating. Okay. And then at the time, bit by bit, some of her secrets were coming out. She never really talked to me. She always gave me her side of the story, in her life. But after I started speaking to her older sister and her best friend, I found out that, she was a bully, in school and her neighborhood and kids at the beach. And I saw this whole different side of her, which I didn't, I'd never heard or saw about, and she wasn't like that now. So I figured maybe she outgrew it. But, later on, years later, I found out that she didn't. But anyway, at the time, it was still good. The beginning of the marriage was still good. She got sick in January of 1993. She had to be hospitalized because her heart started not working, was malfunctioning. Nobody really knew what was happening at the time. So she was hospitalized, and then all of a sudden it just went away. Whatever was causing the problem went away. They figured, there were no other incidents. Just go home and then live your life. And again, I would only found out after she died what that was. And even then, it's a rare condition called the Brugada syndrome, which is very common amongst Southeast Asian people, especially in their 30s and 40s and 50s, and it can lead to a heart attack. But at the time, when we first saw the symptoms in January of 93, we didn't know about it. And then only during my second retrial, that we found out that this was probably what killed her. And so we would never know. We still don't know, because her body was cremated before a second autopsy report could have been done. So, and more, further testing could be done. But back in 93, we didn't know what it was. She was fine after the heart situation. And so, life goes on. She continued going to university. So I was finishing up my education as well. And I actually graduated, in 97, my bachelor's degree. And I was going to start doing my, my master's in another city about 100 miles away, from Montreal to Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. Anyway, the bullying only started in 97. Okay, when she finally got a job. Okay, it took her a while to find a job, and so she was still sort of nice to me, dependent on me because I was the one working and studying at the same time and supporting her.
So between 93 and 97, things
Yeah,
were, for the most part, quiet / supposedly normal.
that's right.
Okay, so 4
That's right.
years, things are, quote, normal. Okay,
Yes.
and then 1997 comes along. Okay.
Yeah. So again, she was busy with her education, going to school, and then trying to find a job after. And that was the main thing on her mind. And she was kind of stressed out and depressed. Couldn't find a job. It took her about almost 2 years to find a job in the computer science field. But she did. And that's when things started changing. She started becoming more assertive, more confident. She was now making more money than me. And so the relationship started changing because now I guess there was a power shift. In some ways, I had some economic power, but I never abused it. But then here she is now getting economic power and getting, more assertive and more powerful in the relationship because she was making more money, that the relationship started changing. I knew when she was doing her university studies, okay, between 92 and 95, she had a lab partner herself, a computer lab partner, as Pakistani Indian guy, recent immigrant, he was a Muslim guy, devout Muslim. You figure he's a nice guy, he goes every Friday to the mosque, he prays, you wouldn't think he would do something wrong or bad. But what I ended up finding out through her friends was that he had a crush on her, and he was starting to pursue her. And even though she was married, and they kept telling me, she's a married woman, you can't do that. But he didn't seem to care. He was very infatuated with her. I'm guessing that he was very inexperienced with women, and maybe possibly even a virgin. But he loved the attention that he was getting from her because she wasn't pushing him away. She liked the attention. And so she was sort of, reciprocating and giving him attention that he probably never got from a woman before. And so next thing you know, they started an affair. And I didn't know exactly to what extent was going on. I knew he was sort of, pursuing her, and after that, and I tried to sort of, tell him, that she's married, that she's with, she's with me, and still he didn't take it, he just said, oh, we're just friends, but I caught him one time telling me, how beautiful she was. And you know what, something's going on here, I have to end it. And so I decided, once she graduated in 95, we were going to move to another city 100 miles away, and she would have had a better chance finding a job there anyway because her French wasn't very strong. And we moved to Ottawa in, June of 97. And so what I didn't know at the time was that about a year later, he relocated too. He gave up his good computer job in Montreal to come 100 miles away to where we were in Ottawa. But I didn't know it. And then the only time I sort of had some kind of inkling was when his brother had called me at home. And his brother calls me at home and says, you know what, I haven't seen my brother in a year and he owes me money and I'm looking for him. I said, well, what are you calling me for? He goes, look, on my phone, on my home phone bill, it says he's been calling this house, several times. So I figured, I don't know anything about it. So I approached my wife and she goes, look, yeah, he did call, a couple of times here, but, I never met him. And I ever since we graduated, we've never seen each other. And that was the end of it. So I believed her.
All right. So this is going on between that bracket, because you said 93 to 97, everything was, quote, normal. But actually, my other question was, and you already answered it without me saying it, in 93 to 97 was normal, and then she switched up in 97. The chances of that happening are very low. So this was going on between 93 and 97.
That's right.
You just didn't know. So things weren't actually normal, and there were things building, but you didn't know.
That's right.
Because it's low that she would flip out after 4 or 5 years. So this is actually what was going on behind the scenes.
Exactly.
All right. Go ahead.
But anyway, so the power struggle continued, okay? And she started wanting to sabotage my education, we had made plans to have kids in 2001, but she sort of jumped the gun when I was in my last year of university in my master's degree by getting pregnant in I guess late 99. That's right. I'm sorry, early 2000. And next thing you know, she's pregnant. And I said, well, look, this is going to affect, my education. I can't be a father and study, full time. And because I always believed that, I always wanted to be a hands-on father. I'm the one who's there up at night, changing the diapers, comforting the kid when he or she has colic. And I didn't think that having a child and finishing off my education was possible. And she knew that. And so she really wanted to have this child. And it was under the encouragement of her mother, which I might add. And because, there was the fear that if I got too successful and too powerful in the marriage, I would regain control. And that's not what either my wife wanted or what her mother suggested. So here I am now in 2000 with a baby. I love her to dear. I love her to death. I named her after my mother, and I still managed. I still managed to finish my education and still be an active father. And I did it. She didn't want that. She didn't want me to finish my education, and that's now that I know it was more of a power struggle, and the fear that I'll regain the power that I sort of had at home between 90, 92, and 97. And so she had a generous maternity leave at her job. She had a government job with national defense. She was an IT person in the military. And so, but she didn't want to take the maternity leave. She insisted that I take time off to look after our daughter. There was one incident where she became really violent, and intimidating, and even really. Oof. I remember it very clearly. It was February. It was February 2001 in my mind. Okay. She wanted access to my emails, and she was saying that I was cheating on her when I wasn't, and then and I didn't want to give her my passwords and things. And I said, that's my personal business. I don't want you going in there. But she insisted, and I remember she was so angry. She took a paperweight and literally smashed it on my hand. Bam! She said, give me the password. Give me the password. So I finally gave her my password to my email account. She didn't see anything wrong. She never apologized or anything for it. Okay. It was just, normal. And just so that she have the reassurance that I was not cheating on her. Meanwhile, she was the one cheating on me. And so ever since that incident, I always tried not to get her angry. I would tiptoe around her, always walk around eggshells around her. And
all right, so what were you thinking through all this? Okay, now there's already tension around. She's already done this. She's already demanded your account. Now you're already taking this posture of eggshells. Yeah. So what are you thinking? What are you feeling? Are you thinking things are normal, it'll blow over? What is your thought process, your feelings while this is happening?
The first thing that came to my mind was now I started believing or seeing the child that my sister-in-law and her best friend was telling me that she was a bully. And all these stories that they told me about her was starting to make sense. It was true. And I said, whoa, maybe deep down inside, she is still that bully. And what do you do? And I was bullied as a child because of my learning disability. And you learn right away, oh shit, I gotta be reserved. I gotta be be careful what I say, how I say it, just to get by. And here I am now starting to realize what kind of person she was, but now I have a 1-year-old daughter with her, and so I figured, okay, I got to, think out my long-term plans, and I wanted to resolve the issues, and I managed to talk her into going to see a marriage counselor, okay? And because what happened was there was an incident where she just took off and disappeared on me and our daughter, and I didn't know why, and I realized now in retrospect what happened was that she wanted time or some kind of alone time with her lover who had now just moved into town, and she didn't know how to go about doing it. And she did it again several years later, in 2008. So, but I was scared of her. I was scared of her because around that time, the story, or just shortly thereafter, I think the story of Loretta Bobbitt came up and cut off her husband's penis, and And it came up during the marriage counseling, this whole issue about, me cheating and she's cheating. And then during the marriage counseling session, she just told Dr. Smith, oh, if he ever cheats on me, I'm going to take a knife or a pair of scissors and I'm just going to cut his dick off, you know? And she thought, Dr. Smith thought it was a joke, yeah, you're not going to do that to him, are you really, really? But I knew better. In the back of my mind, it goes, look, if she started being violent with me just because she thought I was cheating, and here I am, she's ready to break my hand with a paperweight, to confirm that I wasn't cheating on her, then what's to think that she's not going to go and cut my penis off with a knife or a pair of scissors, And so it clearly the whole issue about Loretta Bobbitt, fascinated her. And I guess she thought it was a great idea to have, or a great, sort of repertoire or whatever thing to have in the back of her mind. And it didn't come up. I never thought it would come up until, 2008. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So let me go back.
Well, I mean, you are, but you're not. So we now know, that she was cheating on you throughout the 90s before you knew it. And her lover boyfriend followed you to a different city and still continued to see her.
Yeah.
We do know now from your story that she was a little bit bullying. She kind of took advantage of your passive nature, and she was bullying you, and she had obsession with slicing off penises.
Yeah.
All these things. And you saw these signs, but you just probably didn't know exactly what to do, or again, you were probably a little bit more passive, whatever, and you have a history of being bullied anyway. Yeah. So when was this moment where the confrontation that set up the conviction happened? When let's jump to that moment.
I found out sort of about the affair. I got the confirmation from the affair from our marriage counselor. She sort of didn't tell me indirectly because of confidentiality between her and my wife during one of their sessions. But she pretty much told me indirectly in a follow-up session that there was somebody or something there interfering, with our marriage. And I would find out later on from somebody at church, because she didn't go to church. My wife didn't go to church with me and the kids, that she actually saw my wife with this other man on the west side of the city. Then I started realizing, what, I have to sort of slowly make my way out of this marriage. And I had even consulted a divorce lawyer, but he said, you have to be very, very careful how you do it, because it sounds like she's very abusive. And usually abusers, when you try and get out of the relationship, that's when the abuse escalates. Okay? That's what to make that point. So that's what happened. That's what happened. So on April, my son was born. I had a son with her. I'll be honest, I wasn't very happy about it, because here I am in my mind trying to find a way out of the relationship, and she's trying to keep me in. And so I think either her or one of her family saw that I was trying to make my way out, and they said, look, you better have another kid with this man, and so that you can lock him in. And that's what happened in 2004, my son was born. Mixed feelings, happy that I have a son, unhappy that his mother was abusive towards me, and I found out when I wasn't home, she was actually being abusive towards our daughter as well, which I only found out after my conviction. After my arrest and being charged with murder, because the stuff my daughter sort of told her psychiatrist about how her mother was abusive towards her whenever I wasn't home. Finally, something happens. Again, another incident where she just wants to take off and leave me and the kids at home and disappears. And this happened on April the 4th of 2008. And she came back the next day, with her boyfriend, who, to kidnap our son, who was 2 years old at the time, and with his passport. And so this is the first time I actually meet him for the first time, and since their days in university. He comes to the door and I recognize him right away. And so I said, this is Ali. I know Ali. Ali has been in her life since university back in 1992, 1993. And so I got scared because now here he is in front of my face in my apartment, telling me he's here to take my son away and his passport. And so I called the police. Okay. And it was hard for them to come to meet me because the woman, the dispatcher, didn't take me seriously. She made me actually hang up and call the direct line to the police. And that was a policewoman over there. And even her, she didn't seem it was urgent because, hey, this is your wife's kid. There must be some kind of misunderstanding. They're not going to do something like that. They're not going to come and take your son away with his passport and tell them this. She's not alone. She's got her boyfriend with her. And so she tells me, look, go downstairs in the basement, in the lobby, of the apartment, because we were on the 5th floor. And she said, wait for the police to show up. And so I did. I left the kids behind like she told me to. And I waited in the lobby, hoping that they would show up within 9 minutes. Usually that's the standard, within 9 minutes or less, the police will be there. They only came 35 minutes later. I kept calling, where are you guys? Where are you guys? And when they show up, the police officer shows up. Some, Officer Donardo, Italian guy, white guy. And then there's another cop comes, and Indian guy, and he go, look, Samir goes, I'll go and speak to your wife to see what's going on in the apartment while Tony here takes a statement from you. And so here I am trying to explain. He doesn't take me seriously. He goes, first of all, I'm a guy. Here I am calling the police, asking help, about, my wife, and it didn't matter to him that she wasn't alone. And then I could tell he started not being interested in that story, but more about my ethnicity. He saw me with the Greek name and wearing a T-shirt from the 2004 Olympics. My dad got me during, as a souvenir when he went to see the Olympic Games over in Athens. And, I say, you really Greek? He's looking at me and, and I think, oh, no, I've been through this before. I don't want, my ethnicity, my race or whatever to get involved, in the situation that I'm dealing with now. He was more concerned about my ethnicity and being a man. He takes it seriously that here's a woman that I'm calling the police for help. My wife is there. There's a guy with her, and we're trying to, they're trying to tell him a different story, but all the proof was there. I mean, they try to get me out of my own home, my own apartment. And I said, look, I can't. I said, look, all my money is being spent on this family, the rent, the child care, everything, the bills. I don't have any money left. So she takes out a lot of cash from her purse and what she does to give to me so I can go to a hotel room or something. And then out of her purse, falls the passports. And so he sees there's 2 passports there, hers and my son's, plus, this cash, and I don't have any money, I have nowhere to go, and she's not alone. And it's weird. He still tried to encourage me to leave. You're the man. You got to leave. And then I said, I can't leave. I have nowhere to go. So then he said, okay, well, maybe you can all stay together, and try to resolve it some way or another. They didn't want to get involved. And they said, look, if you can't solve the issue, go to marriage counseling. If that doesn't work, go get divorce lawyers. And I had already consulted a lawyer. As I told you, I did consult a lawyer. I was ready. I was ready to divorce her if the timing was right and if it was safe for me and my kids to do so. Okay. So in the police report, they go ahead and write family dispute resolved, no other action needed, And so they left. The boyfriend eventually left after he figured that I wasn't going to be a danger to my wife. And so we ended up sleeping in separate bedrooms, And so right away, what I wanted to do was, I called my priest to see if he would be able to, mediate and solve the issue between, my wife and I. He was out of town, but he said, when he's back in town, we'll go see him. And then so the next thing I did was I went to the courthouse on the Monday morning, because this happened on Saturday. So on the Monday, my father comes to town and to try and get a restraining order on her. Okay, her and her boyfriend. But the judge rejects my application. He said there's not insufficient grounds. There was some other technicality issues. He goes, so I never got a restraining order. And then I went, like I said, to the priest first by myself. And he goes, and my priest, Father Alex, says, you better come bring her in here. Let's try to resolve this issue in my office. So she agrees. She does agree to come to see Father Alex in his office. And so he gives her an ultimatum. He says, look, you either got to stop the affair, go to counseling, maybe see a psychiatrist, whatever, because he figured something wasn't right with her. And then and try and save the marriage for the sake of the kids and whatever, work it out. Or if you don't want to do that, they go straight to court for divorce. And my wife is not someone who takes ultimatums very lightly. And so she was very shocked, first of all, that she was given an ultimatum by the priest. And she, out of her pride, she goes, you know what? No, F this, screw this. He goes, we're going to have a divorce. And so, fine. I was already ready for the divorce. I had a lawyer already ready for the divorce, I was going to tell her, look, let's start the divorce process. I told Cornelia, my divorce lawyer, that we're going to start the divorce process, but my wife wasn't expecting that. She really thought that I lacked the courage and the support and the means to go through with this divorce. And she thought it was all talk, it was all BS, that I wasn't going to go through with it. She even threatened me, saying, if you go through with this, I'll make you lose everything. I'll make your life a living hell. But, I went, despite her threats, I went through with it anyway. Okay. So she gets served with divorce papers, and we're supposed to go to court, on July 8th, 2008, to determine who gets custody of the kids and the child support and the alimony, because she was still making more money than me. Okay, she had a head start. She had like 10 years of work experience to me. So obviously she's going to make more money than I did. And she didn't want to lose it. She didn't want to lose her money. She didn't want to lose custody, especially of our son. She really bonded and wanted our son because in her culture, boys were more valuable than girls. And she didn't want to lose that. She didn't want to lose that status of being the mother of a son. So, and that's what, and I still couldn't get a restraining order. I kept trying to convince my lawyer, look, she's getting worse at home. Help me get her out of the house. She has a place to stay. She can be with a boyfriend. She's got money. But she didn't want to do it. My lawyer did not want to give or help me get a restraining order. She wasn't comfortable with the idea of kicking a mother out of her house, away from her kids. And this didn't help me. This didn't help me at all. It didn't help my situation or those of my kids, because now she was taking out her anger and frustration out on the kids as well. So she kept intimidating me, telling me, no, let's not go to court for the divorce. Just sign an agreement where, I get shared custody automatically, and that, there's no exchange of money or assets, and that's it. But, I'm concerned as a father, I'm concerned as a parent, I'm concerned for the well-being of my kids. And if she's acting the way she's acting in front of the kids, let alone trying to kidnap my son to go out of the country with her lover, I'm concerned. I'm not going to agree to those terms. So I started becoming more assertive. I started more standing up for myself, and it just got, the things at home just got worse. She started badgering our daughter, telling her, don't tell anybody about her trying to kidnap, her 3-year-old brother. And so this happened on June the 8th, where, I intervened, and I said, look, stop badgering our daughter. And she freaks out. She freaks out and tells me to stay out of it, back away. And when I didn't, she just, with her long nails, just dug it into my penis. I mean, she was aiming for my balls. She was aiming for my testicle. But she missed. And she got my penis instead. And she wouldn't let go. And that's the thing. So all of a sudden, I'm feeling all this kind of pain. And next thing you know, there's blood, and I had to, I freaked out. I pushed her off. I pushed her away. We're tackling each other on the floor because she really wants to fight. She's just so angry. And so I managed to, she's punching me, scratching my face and kicking me and lunging me into the TV, and she's like 50 pounds less than me. But here I am holding back, and I'm saying, I'm not going to hurt this woman. I'm 50 pounds heavier than her, but she knew it. She knew I would hold back, but she went full force kicking my ass. I finally managed to tackle her onto the floor, and I got her onto her stomach, and I had her hands, behind her back, the way they do it on TV with the police officers. So here I am, sort of pinning her down, telling her to, try to cool off and trying to get her to, tell me she's still going to stop fighting me. And then she dies. And I'm freaking out, and the kids are freaking out. What the hell just happened? But a psychiatrist later told me that I went some kind of dissociative shock, or dissociative state, because of what happened, and nobody wanted to believe it. Nobody wanted to believe it. They figured, oh, if I waited, that long to call the police, 911. I wanted her to die, and the jury believed it. They didn't care what the psychologist or psychiatrist said. And so but that wasn't the case. So I eventually just ended up calling 911 much later, after just trying to realize what happened and trying to calm my kids down. And what was really shocking them was the fact that here's their mother in the middle of the living room floor. And so what I did was on the rug. So what I did was I used the rug to pull her body into the bedroom so they wouldn't see her. And I shut the bedroom door to calm them down. And that worked. But the media took it the wrong way. They figured, oh my God, here's this guy. He wants to kill his wife because of the affair. And he's wrapping her up in a rug, ready to throw him out into the river, the way they do it in the mob movies. The mafia movies. It was just so blown out of proportion. And nobody wanted to believe what happened. They saw all the evidence. They saw the blood spatter. They saw my bruises. They saw that there was no definitive cause of death for her, and yet they still wanted to believe that I killed her.
All right. So here's a question. Since you mentioned that people were upset that you let her body lie there for a while. So why did that happen?
Well, again, I went into shock, and I didn't know what it was. I mean, before I even saw the psychiatrist, I thought it was a sort of like PTSD. I did my research, and I found that a lot of people who are abused sometimes go into a sort of maybe a denial phase or a delayed phase. All these years of being abused but suppressing it and just wanting a normal life. And so, when she died, my mind sort of wandered and said, okay, here's your normal life, as you go ahead and you comfort your kids and do everything you usually do on a Sunday morning. But nobody wanted to believe that. They just didn't want to. It took them a long, long, long time to finally believe them and realize that I didn't want her to die. I didn't want to kill her. And that and that it was all an incident of me trying to survive this abusive relationship and trying to get out. I did everything I was supposed to do to get out, with the lawyers and the police and everything, and she just wouldn't allow for it. My wife did not want this to happen. She was losing control. She was losing control very quickly, and it just made her angrier and angrier and angrier, and so. All of a sudden, now the police show up and they arrest me for murder. They see my injuries, in my face, and I tell them about my injured penis. And they brought me to the paramedics downstairs who checked my injured penis, and they see it, and they don't see anything on her body. The pathologist report, said her cause of death was inconclusive. They don't know how she died, but it could be foul play. Maybe it's not foul play. But nobody wanted to look at the science. Nobody wanted to look at the evidence, the physical evidence, the forensic evidence. In their mind, here's this guy, okay, who they went to the courthouse and saw that I filed for divorce. And exactly, so what doesn't make sense? Because why would I kill her 1 month to the day we were supposed to go to court for the divorce? It just didn't make sense. And I was the one who scheduled the divorce, dates and, and everything. But nobody wanted to look at the facts. Nobody wanted to look at anything. All they saw was this guy, okay, 50 pounds heavier than her, and dark skinned, and then now we have a dead body on our hands, And so automatically they think O.J. Simpson. And even the media, even the photographer, I remember, he started calling me, oh, you're Canada's O.J. Simpson. I said, really? I said, I don't remember O.J. Simpson calling the police on Nicole, 3 months before Nicole died. I don't recall O.J. Simpson, being arrested with a bleeding penis. How can you say I'm O.J. Simpson? But that's the mentality these people had. They just didn't want to believe it. I'm arrested for murder. They detained me and had to wait 8 months to get bail. The doctor didn't even come to, look at, do anything about my penis. When he finally came to see it, he just looked at it and said, oh, you know what? She got you really bad, didn't she? Here's some Vaseline. And that's the end of it. Like, they didn't care. They figured out you're going to jail anyway for the rest of your life. Why the hell do you need your dick? Why the hell do you need your penis for? You're not going to be with another woman. You're going to be here, and if you're with another guy, well, that's not our concern. We don't care about your penis. We don't care about you.
So after this occurred, how did you go about rectifying all this? When the conviction came down, a wrong conviction came down, and you were in jail, how did you go about getting all that rectified?
So here I am trying to survive in jail, waiting for my lawyers to file an appeal and get me out of there. And they finally did. They finally got it, thank God, and February 2013, I got the news that my conviction was overturned. But not everybody was happy about it. The parole officer that I saw every week, she wasn't happy about it because in her mind she thought I was guilty, and now here I am going to get away with murder. But I didn't care. I knew the truth. I didn't commit murder, and I got out of there. And again, it took me another 8 months to get bail again before I went for my retrial. 8 times, it took me, during the time I was waiting out to get on bail, I read my Bible 8 times, 1 month from it took me about a month to read from front page to last page, and I did it 8 times, trying to sort of stay strong and get out of there. I didn't get a lot of support. Even during the first time, my father saw that the system was crooked, and he didn't want to fight anymore. He was looking at a plea deal. Don't waste your money on lawyers. And he was a tight ass. He doesn't like to spend money anyway. But he saw that there was no point in fighting, and he wanted me to make a plea deal for manslaughter, and time served, or 4 years of jail and whatever. And I said no. I said no. I said, if you don't want to support me, then fine, I'll support myself and I'll find my way out. And I did. I went, and got the retrial. This time, we got more of the story involved. We got the point, the other parts where, I had proof that I was a victim of domestic abuse and domestic violence, and this time the jury was more sympathetic to me. I mean, there was still a white jury, just like the first time, but this time I had 8 guys and 4 women. And I think they were they were younger too, and so the concept of being a man being beaten up or abused by his wife sort of resonated with them a little bit better than the first jury, which was basically older, and then in their minds, men don't get beat up by their wives, or men don't get abused by their wives or girlfriends, and if you do, it's because you did something and you deserve it, so they're victimizing the victim. And so this second jury was more sympathetic, and then they saw more of the evidence, and my lawyers weren't afraid to present a part of domestic abuse and domestic violence, and there was still a lot of stuff that wasn't presented because the prosecutor did not want all the evidence to be presented. She really didn't. She was still trying to get another conviction of some sort, and thankfully my lawyers were able to convince the jury with the little bit of more information they had from before that I was innocent, that I was always innocent, but I lost everything. Even though the second jury came back and said I was innocent, I wasn't guilty, I lost a lot. I mean, I lost my job, I lost my kids. My kids were put up for adoption. By strangers. I haven't seen them, and I'm going to see them for the first time. I'm going to see them for the first time on December the 18th, which is the 6-year anniversary of my acquittal. For the first time, because the family who adopted the kids, they don't want to do nothing to do with me. So they rather wait till my youngest son, becomes, an adult, legal age, so he can leave if he wants to and be with me, and his sister. But because the family doesn't want to be nothing to do with me. They think that I was guilty and I got away with it the second time around. They just didn't want me in their lives, and so they stopped me from seeing what is technically their kids because they adopted the kids. And so that hurts. It hurts a lot. And I'm looking forward to December 18 when I get a chance to see them for the first time in 12 years. It affects me. It affects me mentally. It affects my family, my business. Please. Even though I got acquitted, they didn't want me. I was a hot political potato. They gave me some severance package money, tell me to go away and don't come back. People, the reputation. Even till this day, about 1 in 3 people still think that I'm guilty and I'm responsible for everything. And I found this out because I have the book coming out. And I have, the movie coming out as well, the movie adaptation of it coming out. I'm working with, Hollywood screenwriters. And we did focus groups, we did surveys, we did polls. And 1 in 3 people still feel that I am guilty, that I'm responsible. And that it's the thing is, though, it always happens to be the same demographic group that thinks that I'm guilty. The older people, the older ones, because they still don't think and believe that men can be victims of domestic violence or domestic abuse, and a certain female demographic, which I realized was part of the Me Too movement, and part of the feminist movement. Not the kind that my mom grew up with, the one asking for equality, but the one that sort of is pushing for superiority, and so you have 1/3 of the population, more or less, that still thinks I'm responsible and guilty. So and so my reputation is still tarnished. It is. I had to go, be self-employed. I had to leave Canada, go back to my native home state of New York, to start my business because I had no future. You have no future in Canada because of my reputation. And even in the U.S., some people still have doubts, that sort of look at stories, on the internet about me, and they still have doubt whether or not I'm really, really reputation. I have this whole incident, this whole situation affects my relationship with women. I've come not to trust them as openly as I did before, and so it takes me a long time to sort of connect with women. I'm not dating anybody seriously now, because of that distrust. I just can't come get over that hurdle. I just can't. What happened? What's to stop them from telling the police that I assaulted them? They're gonna look at what happened during my trial. Oh, so you really did kill her, because and that's why this woman is claiming that you're hitting her now.
I know that there are people who don't believe that you're innocent, and it's caused problems with your business and your relationships. But currently, how do you feel? Like inside, psychologically, emotionally, how do you feel?
I've grown up. I realize that I'm more mature now. Like I said before, I was sort of naive. I realized, and a Boy Scout, like a sort of a Superman type of character. Peter Pan, whatever you want to call it, and I realize now that I'm not in Neverland anymore. I'm not as social as I used to be. But I'm still polite. I still treat people courteously. I give them the benefit of the doubt. A lot of distrust, but I think it's in some ways that distrust is justified because people are not what they always seem. And so I've grown a lot. I've grown up. I mean, you could literally say that jail made me grow up. The experience of going to jail made me grow up and be a man, be more assertive, less trustful, and take things real slow, as opposed to, whoa, this woman wants to date me? Why? And so you sort of look deeper and see, well, what's going on here? And so, I've overcome a lot of the issues. People didn't think that. People thought that I needed to be rehabilitated, and no. I mean, I'm not a criminal. I don't need to be rehabilitated. I need maybe some counseling and whatever. But I've done that, and I've gone and done that myself. To sort of overcome a lot of the issues, a lot of the problems that entered my life because of this whole situation. I'm a better person now than what I was years ago. And you know, and what's really helping me is that there are people out there that are really showing me their kindness and their compassion. You know, I got a woman who's looking forward to going out on a date with me. You know, and you know, and I got to know her a little bit more better. You know, and I agreed to go out with her, you know, a couple of times, some concerts she wants to go to. And that's good, you know. And the fact that I went on social media, oh, you wouldn't believe the amount of support I got from social media, and it really it helps me. It really shows that people out there really care, and that they understand what I went through. And you know, there's from all over the world, you know, not only America, but you know, the UK and Australia, and you know, and parts of Canada, the western part especially. A lot of you know, people showing their compassion and their love, and it helps when people all of a sudden start showing you love. You know, it helps you get through the day. It helps you go. You know, it helps you you know, deal with things knowing that you're not alone. And so, you know, even celebrities, when they heard my story and I gave them copies of advance copies of my book, the amount of compassion that I got from these people was amazing. And I'm talking about big names here, like, you know, like Billy D. Williams and Robert Patrick, you know, Summer Glau, you know, John Wesley Shipp, John Glover, Billy Zane, Kevin Smith, William Shatner. All these people came and showed me love and compassion when I ran into them at conventions, you know, and so I feel better. It's a lot better than the 6 years of hell I went to when all I got was hate and anger and you know, disbelief. And now I've come a long way. And you know, I'm looking forward to sharing my story through my book and through my movie, and I really hope that I can help others what I went through. You know, so my book's coming out in a couple of months, called The Ottawa Way. Ottawa being the capital of Canada. I mean, that's the way they do things over there. The Ottawa Way. It's a viral outbreak, you know, in Canada's capital. But you know what I realized is that all that hatred that came from that place is spreading out beyond the Canadian borders. It's going into America. It's going into the UK. It's going everywhere. When the Me Too movement showed up and popped up, you know, in American media, I said, oh no, the hatred against men. You know, yes, there are bad men out there, but we're not all bad. And then when you have some women who want to take advantage of the situation and try and portray you as some monster for whatever reason, it hurts. It's scary. It hurts. It hurts me and it scares me. I'm scared for my son. What kind of world is he going to live in when you have all this hatred and disbelief for men? You know, whether, you know, if he did something wrong, fine. But if he didn't do anything wrong, then why? You know, why? You know, that's where I am now in my mind. That's where I am in my heart. You know, I really want to educate people that, you know, men are victims of violence. Don't blame them. Don't victimize them, you know, and to look for the signs. The signs, you know, I didn't know the signs when I met my wife and when the abuse started. I didn't know the signs. And I learned. I did my research. I spoke to people. I did my readings. And I finally realized that she very well may have had narcissistic personality disorder, which is not really a mental illness, but a sort of a mindset that's developed during childhood, you know, where they're either extremely spoiled, which she was, by her father, and never disciplined for any wrongdoing, but it could also have been her mother. And that's the thing, if they're not spoiled during childhood, you know, they're either neglected by their mother, you know, and so they develop these coping mechanisms where they want to get ahead in life, you know, but they use it on the goodness of people that are empathetic, and people who care, people who have compassion, and people who want to, you know, always find the good in people and not realize that there's bad in there as well. So that's where I'm at in my life. That's where I am in my life now.
So what would you say to other men that might be going through similar things? Because, you know, relationships just don't blow up. There's always a build up. And like you were talking about, men do suffer through domestic violence. So what would you say to men that are that have gone through it, or maybe even going through it now?
The thing I find with men is that there's lack of support. There's lack of, belief for each other. Women, they have the sisterhood, and it's a real sisterhood. They stand by one another. They are there to support each other. If one woman says she's abused, there are like a dozen women who come forward to offer help and assistance, and that's not there for men. That's the challenge with being a man, is that support is not there. That you don't have a shelter for men to go to, for refuge from being in an abusive relationship. They don't have people who believe them. They're pretty much told to suck it up, or if they gotta leave, then they end up being on the streets with no support. That's the problem. That's part of the problem. We need to tell each other, not to be afraid to tell us that my wife beats me up, or she had a violent incident with me the other day. We have to sort of be there for one another. We have to believe each other, not be afraid to be judged for being a pussy. Okay, for being beaten up or assaulted or threatened by their wives. We have to tell, whether it's the city or the state or whatever, that we need more men's shelters. We need more funding for that. I mean, it really pains my heart when you have shelters that originally opened up for men victims of domestic abuse and violence shut down due to lack of funding. That's not right. We have to be there for each other. We have to have support to each other. We have to have the men as men encouraged to speak up and tell people what's happening in our lives. It's not. You're not a wimp. For telling someone, what, my wife did this, or she told me she was going to do that to me, and I'm scared. Let's put that aside, man. You were talking about your safety, your well-being, and possibly those of your kids. We have to change. We have to change the way we think about this stuff. And I'm really hoping, like I said, my book, my interviews with people, the movie's going to talk about it, raise awareness, and also get people to speak up about the issues.
Yeah, absolutely. So your book is going to come out. So do you have like a website or something else where people can see all of these things, your upcoming book, maybe your past books, maybe the upcoming movie?
So my past books are on the internet. If you type my name up, Demetrios, Angelis, and so the first book, because I co-wrote my first book on emergency response. I co-wrote it with a guy named Dennis Caro, Denis Caro, Caro. You'll find the first book on there. The second one, if you just type my name and put in health from Canada, you'll see the book I co-edited and sort of offered consulting advice on will pop up. My new book, my publisher is going to be having a website developed when it comes out in a couple of months. But in the meantime, what I tell people to do is, look me up on Facebook. Just Jim Angelis, JIMANGELIS. Follow me. If you want to be friends with me on Facebook, that's fine. Same thing with Twitter and Instagram. And I keep people updated all the time. I tell them where I'm talking, who I'm speaking to, what subject matters I'm talking about, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's being wrongfully convicted because you're a man, or a man of color, or, about being a father who lost their children to, adoption. Everything is on my social media pages. I've already had people come and ask me personal questions. They call me up and they ask me questions about relationships. They call me up and they ask me questions about my business. I have a rental property business. They ask me what are my legal rights as a tenant, and I answer them. I don't care who you are, where you're calling me from, where you're writing me from. I will answer you. So social media is the best way to get a hold of me and then know what's going on in my life and also about the book and movie and everything. I always keep everybody up to date on that sort of stuff.
All right, cool. Well, definitely been through a lot, and I know that you're skeptical about more relationships, but do you think that you would ever get married again?
That's an interesting question. I'm 50 years old, and I mean I turned 50 this past December, and I find that women in my age group don't want to get married.
Yeah.
They go, what? Go through that again? Then a lot of these women were divorced. They went through bad relationships, and they don't want it. They don't want to. That's part of the challenge. The other challenge is, we need more time to know each other and trust each other. Even if it takes 10 years, I'll wait 10 years if I have to, if I know that the person that I love, is really the right person for me and I can trust them, heart, body, and soul, heart, mind, and soul. And so, it's not off the table. I mean, if it's the right person, it's the right time, and there's a trust is there, I will get married again if it's, if everything, if the time, like I said, everything is right, the time is right, the person is right. And so it's not off the table. Obviously, because of what I went through, it's going to take time. It's going to take time for me to, take that next step if I want to, if I have to, and so it's not off the table. The thing I find is with women in my age group, between 40 and 60, say, they have a lot of trust issues themselves. They don't trust men. And it's going to take them time to get to know that what they read in the media before is not the person I am. And so, there's a lot of trust issues, both not only on my side, but on their side because of what they went through with their husbands or boyfriends or even their fathers, And so, and that hurts. I find that heartbreaking because if we're going to move ahead, in a world where, there's love and compassion, we have to treat each other right. And what I find is a lot of men, the younger generation, like myself and younger, we're paying for the price of, our fathers, our grandfathers, our uncles, our older brothers, because of how they mistreated women. And we're paying the price. And I think that's part of the problem that happened with me was a lot of women, like on the jury, or for example, the female prosecutor, they may have gone through something in their lives. And so here's another allegation of a man being abusive towards a woman, and they believe it only because of the stuff that are, the crap, the mistreatment that, our fathers and grandfathers and older brothers and cousins did. So, I'm still hopeful. To put it bluntly, I'm still hopeful that, not only with me and my relationship with women, but the future between men and women in general, and that this toxic relationships, this toxic mentality between women and men eventually dies out. I really hope so.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've offered a lot here, a lot of experience here, certainly a lot of knowledge gained by your experiences. So thank you for sharing all of this with us. It must not, I know you're doing lots of interviews and you got a book coming out, but, at some point, rehashing all this over and over, it may be a little painful for you. So I appreciate you being open and sharing everything.
And if you want to be a guest on the Core Confidence Life, all you have to do is go to coreconfidencelife.com/guest. That's coreconfidencelife.com/guest. And follow us on social media. That's right. So follow us on Twitter, Core Confidence Life. Also, hit us up on Facebook. Like us, the page, Core Confidence Life, Personal Development. So you've been listening to the Core Confidence Life. I'm your host, Dennis Sumlin, and this is your home for higher consciousness and lower stress.